Okay, Adnan. Let's look at the book now. You've covered just about every single thing that we've done, so there's an awful lot of material. What I suggest is that there's perhaps things to focus on where you're making improvements, you're making adjustments, you're making developments in some of the things you've done. You've been doing that with the oil painting. You've been extending what the material can do, exploring its limitations, its potential, and it's starting to take shape. You're starting to get really familiar with the material and letting it be a little bit thicker. And I think that's kind of leading the way with a lot of the other projects you've done. I think I'd look back into them now because you've done a lot of experimenting with ideas and materials. We look back into them and try and draw out some more increasingly confident and polished pieces of work. So, good mind map to start. I would say a good example to start with is a very good go at the pastels. There are certain areas now you could go back and look at it again. You could think maybe, okay, there's some dusty white areas, there's some darker areas in here, some fine little lines going through, and possibly go closer up to the edge. Fine tuning in the way that you're really looking with your oil painting now. Likewise here, I'd say that this is a good beginning part. I'd tidy up around the outside with a rubber, possibly dipping into some darker tones underneath as you've done here or inside here, so that the tones display the full range, and it might even be worth picking out some of the very, very lightest parts with a rubber. Now on here we've got the pattern piece. I'd say that could do with a little bit more development possibly, so you're developing the tones using the patterns, which was the plan with the patterns. So I'm looking forward a little bit in the book, and you've got the patterns coming later on, so that's on its way. But a little bit more work down here would be useful, I think. Just kind of set the tone. This is a pattern. This page is a pattern which is throughout the book, where you've got things kind of neatly organised, and then things that are slightly more loosely organised or kind of expressive and so on. And I think what we need to do throughout the book is to explore those extremes, things that are neatly done, things that are less neatly done, so that they look obvious, that they're chosen that way. You could possibly, so let's go through the book thinking in those terms. What could be neater? What could be slightly more kind of expressive and looser? I think some of the definition around these bananas here might benefit from a little bit more, a few darker tones again, possibly a little bit harder on the pencil, possibly even mixing in a little bit of a different colour in the pencil. I know it's a flat, even surface, but I think it would help defining the shape of those bananas. You've got a good annotated range of photographs here, larger ones that you've chosen. Um, I think the photography is something that you could look at again. You did a superb job in the dissection project, possibly going back here and identifying things like groups, possibly going back and taking more photographs, possibly even photoshopping them in the way that Andreas Gursky does. We've got a picture of Andreas Gursky's later on with like tons and tons of rows of things in the supermarket. So, good range of patterns, a good range of tone in the patterns. Interesting possibilities here. Perhaps this could extend out into something. Here you need a title to explain that you're doing quite a radical experiment, really. You're mixing patterns in with an image, and you're introducing this titling to begin with. So I would suggest a title up here, possibly stenciled, quite neat, and then one that's really hand done and kind of rougher down here could be rather interesting. Likewise here, this could be, with a bigger brush and less ink, so that it's really dry and grainy. The brush marks could contrast the Andres Gursky very nicely. It'd be nice if it was away from A4 as well. It'd be nice if you kind of trimmed out the picture or printed it larger, and you could play with this notion of squareness, evenness, and then the more expressive roughness. This is a classic example. Nice, neat, sharp thing, then it goes rough. It might be quite nice to lose this little bit down here and have this go really rough, maybe even bending around the corner of the page. And then two interesting contrasting drawings here. So yeah, interesting page. So own version of this, something that's kind of disgusting but also interesting. You've got the A4 situation going on again there. Again, maybe better off when you've got plenty of pages in the book. It might be better off having these, I don't know, at the back or something, perhaps. This is a nice page. I think you've done a great job of that. Good bit of writing there. Maybe this needs to be kind of rougher. Maybe do a dry run first before we actually write it out. And here, I'd get this title a bit bigger. It's quite a key one here. What am I getting marked on? Yeah, this one, interesting. I'd sharpen, anything you do to sharpen up those edges. They're very sharp already, but just sharpen up a little bit more because it'll be very much in contrast to the handwritten part of the books, and it would just kind of tidy up what is a very interesting experiment you're doing. That writing there looks like mine. I'd probably get rid of that. Other Sigmar Polka examples, bits of text come out. If you're going to put the paper on, probably best to go square or trim it and spread it out a little bit. When you've got this kind of titling in and the green and so on, kind of useful to keep it tying in with what you're making the work about, you're writing things about. But nonetheless, could be rougher on the writing, and maybe there's opportunity to do other kind of features, even if you had some kind of red lines that were straight underneath, or I don't know, some other designs. You're thinking about patterns. This is your first one that's kind of a lot more sort of scrawly. Maybe you can make it more scrawly. You can certainly get artists that do scrawls to support what you've done. Good detailed work, nice and precise. Kind of, is that a title? It's looking like it sort of could well be. And a little bit of pop art thrown in there. So you've got a lot of content on there. We want to see what you're going to do with that content. This is analysing something. What is it analysing? Let's have a picture of it. What went well? What you could go better with the print? So, colour photocopy of some of the prints made in a fold-out page or printed small here. Immediately, you'd know what we're talking about. So, moving swiftly on, another little composition thing. If that was straight, that border there, I think that would help. It would help make all the things in the rest of the book look like you were being sharp in places and rough in others in a deliberate way. Perhaps there's ways you could act on the things I've suggested and lose them. Perhaps you could stencil in a title in contrast to the painted one. Have them both. This is a bit of a hodgepodge of things. I think it needs to continue that way. Let's have some Emily prints in here, kind of perhaps arranged slightly different sizes and in different angles. This is a piece that was just a kind of a single piece on its own, and I think that's one which could be done with developing more. And then onto the prints, and move a bit quicker now because we've got a lot of work to get through. The print work, this needs finishing. Very good start, but needs finishing. Very nice here. Could be more shaded, more watered down ink possibly, and very nice and sharp here. Just make sure the edges if they can't be a little bit sharper, tidy up bits that are not needed anymore. Print experiments, yeah, I would colour photocopy some of these and add more material to them so that you've got more to experiment, more to demonstrate the experiments. I think it needs that somehow, some additional pages. Very kind of striking things, a little bit like an artist called Franz Klein, abstract expressionist artist. So, second book, let's move swiftly on. Yeah, bold, big, brave, do it, like it. Angles of the rain to be included. Animation. All right, so you've got the thing just stuck straight down. If you're going to do that, it might be nice just to trim it so it's not A4 and then get it down super neat or scrunched up, one or the other. Okay, bigger title would go nicer on that page, I'd say. These pages, again, not quite sure whether, this is a good bit of content, but I'm thinking it's kind of straight out of a shop, and that's straight out of a copier. So maybe there's a better way of arranging it so that it's sort of less straight off the roll. Likewise with this, trim it up, search the names up. You got the kind of wandering sentence there. Kind of needs to be, same thing I've been saying again. We need to know that wandering is deliberate, and not just a sort of it happened that way. That could be stuck down. You could link that to pop art. It's a kind of iconic image, and yep. And Rauschenberg is a good link to compare what's going on here in the Cubomania. I like this sort of stuff. Watch out for it looking like it's just rushed. Yeah, trimmed a little bit better. The wording maybe again. Get a paintbrush and paint it with a paintbrush. Martha Coben's is very kind of chopped out, collaged together with kind of random bits of material. I'd get some newspaper and do some of that because it would tie nicely with your collage piece. Again, link to pop art. If you're linking it to pop art, make it clear. Give a pop artist's name. Likewise with this, again, pop art. Maybe it's an Andy Warhol connection. Maybe stenciling or, I don't know, something, not sure. A bit more work on that. Let's get this thing looking scratchy. Nice, soft image. Yeah, that's looking sharper. Maybe even try and get it looking sharper still. And Brandenburg there, I'd get a little title, maybe an opportunity for stenciling there. Brandenburg there, 4B pencil pressed down pretty hard. So I'd try and simulate that a little bit. Okay, maybe just trim it and do it in 2 sections. All right, that's starting to look a little bit interesting. And again, that's starting to look quite bold, quite a kind of alarming image, that. This is interesting. Can we have some pictures of, gosh, I can't remember his name. Cat in a Hat. Let's have some images of him so we can see that you're mixing the things in. I think there's a lot of potential in this. It's got kind of pop art element, an abstract element. You've mixed it together yourself. Giacometti element. I think that's very interesting. That would warrant doing a kind of another version, maybe bring pastels back in and mix it with some paint. Okay, so we're looking at these two people, examining drawing techniques, and then a little bit of abstract art. Again, you've got these just blocked in as A4. It doesn't sort of fit well with the more sort of expressive titling, because it looks like you have just stuck the A4 in. It'd be nice to have them chopped up. Nice pieces of work here, very interesting, and an outcome there. Might be worth even colour photocopying, making it A3, and then working on top of it again. So now you're looking at these pieces in depth. Yeah, so I'm going to trim that in depth, and if you're going to do it like that, really get it precise and lose that. Maybe even some even colour on the background. Yeah, thorough bits of writing. Yeah, very, very detailed, very interesting. So you've taken all that care, and the writing just wandering off a little bit. I just take the time to straighten that up because you've done so much care on that. And this too, I'd maybe check this edge here, and I've done it smooth, but I check the edge here. Again, title, drawing styles, say who it is, who you've mixed together more precisely. These are bold moves you're making here, and you really want to present them well. Colour palettes, yeah, looking at them, I'm going to move on a bit. Working from primary source, watch that wandering title again. Little bit of a trim down here, we know it's you, maybe we could rub that out. And then this is super neat. Now you've done some sort of mixing of style here, Francis Bacon thing. Maybe you could get that more radical and the curves more bold. Check out how sort of distorted and kind of angry looking Bacon's can be. Very nice job of this. One little suggestion though, he leaves an awful lot of space around it. I'd be rather tempted to lose that boundary and just get a lot of space around it, or pop in a reason why you've kind of tightened it down a little bit. But you've got that paleness, that kind of washed out feel very well. Here we go, dissection project, good plans. I like these little kind of crawling mind maps. They look like sort of creatures. Maybe you could get one that goes over the page here, so it sort of helps the page blend in a bit. room for some more Gunther von Hagens. Nice job. Actually got some documentation from the trip, which is, I got to say, a little bit unusual. A lot of people didn't get a lot of work done in there. I trimmed that out. 2 pages. Let's see them. Let's get them visible, and that's looking very promising. Excellent little range of photos you took. Really good. We'll see all of them in the book. And another little range of pictures. Really good. Let's get them all in the book. Beginning to experiment. Watch your edges. Watch your definition. Watch the smudging. And then we end on this one. Very interesting. Yeah, so that is all of the work. It hasn't gone on too long. So you've got a lot of work, Adnan, and it's a lot of interesting work. And we want a few pieces to really come out now and start dazzling, really starting to kind of push the material onto the next level. Not easy to do. You've got to stick with certain things and say, no, I'm going to really, really push that particular method and take it up to the next level. And it'll lift all that experimentation up. I would aim to get that oil painting really moved along quickly, get it fluent, get it moving. Get it personal. It is personal in content, and make the thing fluent. It's like you're kind of confident. You're moving into the confident, but you want to get fluent. You want to really get to know material so that it's doing just what you want it to do. And then all that playing with mixing things, styles, mixing the content will start to make a lot more sense.